Welcome to Driving to College, the channel where we try to take the confusion out of the college search, choice, application, and affordability issue. Today we'll be cruising around campus in a 2020 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited with the Rubicon package. I had a lot of fun driving this thing. It looks great, turned some heads. Too bad we couldn't get it muddy, but it was still a lot of fun to drive. Today we'll be driving around Berea College in Berea, Kentucky, as we talk about one unique program that is out there for college affordability, and that is the Work College program. Berea College is one of 8 or 9 federally designated work colleges, which basically means that at a school that's a work college, a student works for a specific amount of hours at a specific job, usually on campus at first, and their employment is in exchange for lower tuition, or at least in Berea's case, a no tuition promise. So let's talk a little bit about some of the types of work colleges. Of course, there are the federally designated work colleges that I mentioned, and the website for that is workcolleges.org. And those ones are designated that way because they have reached some sort of benchmarks that the Department of Education sets for these types of schools. But there are also individual schools who are not part of the Work College Consortium that do some sort of work program where tuition is less in exchange for work. And those, perhaps a Google search for work college or work for tuition programs might help you out. Those are usually going to be one-off programs, but I know there are some out there. But the constant among the schools who are doing this is the basic principle that the student will perform some type of work in exchange for tuition. In this video, then, we will talk about some of the benefits of attending a work college and some things that I consider watch outs, or things that you might want to watch out for, or at least do some research on before you jump into a work college program. And then we'll talk about a couple of similar type options that are out there, and then I'll give you my bottom line on what I think about the work college option. The benefits to a work college, I think there are quite a few of them, and in my mind the benefits outweigh the watch outs or the potential pitfalls pretty significantly. But I've got 5 key benefits, and the first is, of course, that it can cut the cost of college. It can significantly decrease the amount of loans, or perhaps even put you in a no loan situation for college. If you're looking for specific colleges where you can get in and get out with a lower upfront investment, then I believe that the work colleges can really help with that. Another benefit to the work college model is experience. An experience that while you're getting an education and a degree, you're often also building a resume. You can work your way up in jobs as far as leadership and responsibility. So typically by the time you've finished 4 years at a work college, not only do you have your degree at a lower cost, but you've also got some work experience that shows a progression and an increase in responsibility, which should help you land that job out of college. So that goes hand in hand with the next benefit that I see, and that is that typically schools that are doing the work college program or some sort of work for tuition program have an upward growth pattern in the types of jobs that students can do from the first year to the 4th year. And basically what that means is that they'll have a bit of a pathway built where a student might start off in their first year in the dining hall or on the maintenance staff doing some sort of work, on campus, cleaning or doing dishes, or maybe working in a farm setting, as some of the schools will have. But by the end of the next year and the following year, they've worked their way up so that hopefully by their 3rd and 4th years on campus, they are overseeing other students, providing some sort of supervision, and being involved in anything from budget type decisions to hiring, firing, discipline, praising, all the types of things that you might hope that somebody has experience doing who's got some sort of mid-range management experience, which for a college graduate is pretty great. So I think if you can find a school that has a very clear upward growth pattern, then you're looking at a really nice situation in the work college model. I know that Many of the work colleges that are federally designated are fairly small, and often they end up being private religious institutions because the model does work better at a certain size that's a little smaller. It's probably hard for your state university of 30 or 40 or 50 or 20,000 students to find jobs for every student. So the smaller schools end up also putting an emphasis on a piece of service that might be a part of the work program, or another way to say that is that they'll put an emphasis on citizenship and helping the students become global citizens that see work and education as an opportunity not only to help themselves but to help the world around them. So I think that's a really nice benefit of that model. And then the last main benefit, it is probably not the last benefit, but it's the last main benefit that I'll hit on in this video, is that most of these schools are doing some sort of curriculum integration with the work college model. Sometimes the coursework in a class can be tied to work that the student is doing outside of the class, and vice versa. And sometimes that can be a nice little bit of a 2-for-1 for the student, in that work time can not only help cut their tuition costs, but can also work towards class time. And then the biggest curriculum integration benefit, I think, is a practical experience piece, or you might consider it an active learning piece that integrates work that the student is doing with coursework specifically. So I noticed at Berea College when I was driving around that they have a farm store, and at the farm store I believe they sell produce and different things that they grow or make as part of the work college. And I can imagine a student in a business or a marketing class, or maybe a sustainable agriculture class, who is working in the farm store as their work, but they're learning perhaps the budgeting or the accounting or the marketing or the sales end of a sustainable agriculture product, or field to farm organic type produce. So I think that the opportunities that a student could have to do curriculum integration with coursework and their job are really unique and can be a great benefit. Like I said, there are likely plenty of other benefits, but I'm going to move on to some things that I think you might want to watch out for or look into before jumping feet first into a work college situation. And one is the curriculum. While curriculum integration can be a great benefit, it may be something to watch out for a little bit depending on your student, but sometimes I've heard that grades in courses may be linked to job performance. And so if you have a student who is great in the classroom academically but struggles maybe socially, or struggles in settings where they have to work on a team, or is not the type of person who receives constructive feedback well, it's possible that work performance may hurt grades in a way that you'd want to be aware of and do some coaching on, or something you might want to think whether or not your student is the perfect fit for this type of school. The second watch out would be types of jobs. So we mentioned an upward growth pattern as a benefit, but you might want to look into that and make sure that the school has that, and that they have an upward growth pattern not only for the high achieving students who are great on jobs and great in the classroom, but for your more middle range students. Is there also a way for them to get jobs that kind of have an upward pattern, or does it happen that students ended up doing dishes or cleaning toilets for 4 years? I would ask somebody there that. I'm sure they'll have a great answer. I'm sure they've thought of this, and Berea College here that we're driving around has been doing this for a long time, and they've got a lot of satisfied alumni. So you'll want to go ahead and ask, but the reality is I would doubt that many students are doing dishes for 4 years, but check into that. Another watch out for that I would be concerned about maybe on the work college side of things is spending money. So you'll want to learn from each school, how are they handling that? Is 100% of the hours going right towards tuition? Do the students get some sort of stipend per month to cover spending money and walking around money out of their job? Or how do the students there typically handle the common student needs for, Friday night pizza, or a trip somewhere real quick to do something off campus? So spending money might be something that I would encourage you to ask about and see if there's an adequate plan. If you can't afford to send your student a set amount of money each month to help them with that, you want to know what kind of plan their work can do to help them with that. Are they maybe allowed to get a second job if they would have time? Something like that you'll want to definitely find out about. Another thing to research and to be aware of going in is that there probably are other costs and fees beyond tuition. So Berea College here has a wonderful program with a tuition-free promise. Then you want to ask, great, how am I going to cover room and board? Do I have to live on campus? What are the other fees? And then you'll know that you might borrow a little bit of money, but borrowing money to cover room and board and fees is still a lot better than borrowing money to cover that and tuition. You'll just want to read the fine line and ask the school that you're looking at, how do students cover other costs? And then the final thing that you'll want to consider is the time commitment involved. Now you might think that, well, my son or daughter is going to get a job no matter what school they go to, and we're factoring that in, and that is good. I think that's a great thing to think about while you're thinking about the college choice. But on a school like this, you'd want to see how much time are they requiring a student to work, and for how many weeks out of the year. I think I saw one, I don't believe it was Berea, but I think I saw one, students are expected to work year-round there. So you want to find out what's that. And then you'll want to think, is your student an athlete, or do they want to perform in fine arts settings? And how does all that time stack up? Maybe you have a student who's really engaged in student government and they would want to be involved in that, and that if that's not a part of a work program, how do they have time to work and go to class and study and perform and do all the things that college students want to do? So you'll probably want to sit around and think through time commitment and what might you sacrifice in going to a work college so you get a wonderful financial deal, but maybe the work means that you don't get to do one or two other things, and you'll want to weigh that and the value of that amongst yourselves. Those are the main benefits and things to look into or watch out for a little bit with the work college model. There are some similar options, and some of you might be thinking, well, why should we go to a work college when the student can get a job no matter what school they go to? And if we put a percentage of their earnings into payments for college, then it ends up being the same thing. That may be somewhat true. I think there probably is a bit of truth to that. But there's also some benefits to the work college model. A lot of the schools will either have endowments or donors or a partnership with the federal government or other places that might help the student beyond just what they would make in the job. So essentially they end up making more from the work college job because of other avenues that are also helping affordability that way. But you'd want to look in, see what could you make at a job at any school you go to and how much of those could go into payments and what is the bottom line affected that way. The other thing that I think is growing a little bit are schools who will give scholarships for work or kind of career pathway type of things. And so you'd want to look for those. And if they're going to give a scholarship, which is essentially a tuition reduction, in exchange for the student working in a certain area that they're interested in as a scholarship, that may come close to comparable. So you want to go ahead and research some of those and see if those are helpful in the way to cut your cost and maybe focus the work more clearly on some sort of area that the student is interested in. So my bottom line on the work college model is that I do think it's a pretty great option. You definitely want to read the details at the individual school you're talking about that offers tuition in exchange for work. But the bottom line for me is if you can get in and your student is a good worker who doesn't mind working a little bit, then go for it. I think you can get a great education that gets you a degree and some practical experience for a pretty affordable rate. So overall, I think the work college model, while it is not adopted widely in higher education, is a nice little niche market and area that you can look into for your student. So as always, we're trying to help you think through college search and choice, application, affordability, and success. I hope you have fun along the way. Good luck.